First of all, thank you everyone for being here. Tonight we're going to be talking a little bit about something which is, more and more people are more and more talking about it, which is site search from SearchStax with personalization. So we're going to be trying to explain a little bit about the concept of personalization, SearchStax site search, and how we can work with those two together in order to be able to offer, a better search experience for the user. So that's going to be the goal of the presentation. We're going to start with some introductions. So for those who don't know yet, nice to meet you all. Hugo Santos. I've been working as the head of the search practice at Konabos Consulting. I've been working with Sitecore for almost a decade now, half of it, focusing on search and Sitecore. And yeah, more than glad to be here to share with you a little bit what I know about search and Sitecore. Sameer.
Thanks, Hugo. Hi, everyone. My name is Sameer Maggon. I'm head of product here at SearchStax. I'm based out of Los Angeles area, so great to virtually be in the Pittsburgh user group. My background's primarily in search, technical, coming up from the technical side, being an engineer, and now work mostly on the working with the engineers and the product team. We've been working with Hugo and some of the other Konabos members on the Sitecore side of things, on how it relates to Search Studio or site search offering we have. So this is one of the things that we've been working on with Hugo. So I think it's actually really, really great to be here in showcasing that and getting some feedback from the team.
Before jumping to the subject, I would like to start with a quick overview on Sitecore personalization. I'm not assuming that everybody knows the concept. So that's probably the reason why people are still buying Sitecore those days. So basically, they're trying to offer different navigation experience to different audiences. That's the long history short. So as long as you can identify different audiences on Sitecore, so how people are using your website, it's going to tell you if they are audience A, B, or C. And based on that, you can then try to offer different pages or even different piece of pages, different content to different audiences. And in order to be able to do that, Sitecore offer a lot of background technology, so you don't need to worry about the identify the audience part. Sitecore is going to be doing that for you. If you're working with the Sitecore architect or even a marketer, and you have the audiences in a paper, it's going to be super simple to translate that to Sitecore. And once you have that in place, you can then start working with the content. So you can create multiple different contents for the same page and offer different content or different entire pages for those different audiences. That's the concept of personalization. So that's for Sitecore only. When it comes to personalization in Sitecore, we're going to be talking about different content for different audiences. Based on that, Sameer, can you give some sort of overview on the product site search?
Yeah, so let me talk a little bit about kind of the problem, right? So, one of the problems that when we talk to customers is, while Sitecore allows them to do kind of the personalization on the content side and the pages side, what we've often seen is when it comes to the search experience part of it, not a lot of that personalization has a kind of goes that last mile, right? So, if let's say, persona of an architect's coming to your website, and you're surfacing up relevant pieces of content to them as they're navigating the site. But let's say then they start performing a search and they immerse themselves into a search experience, that personalization kind of falls through and doesn't kind of go exactly onto the search side of the equation, right? And that's really where I think this particular area of personalization is. We're trying to make sure that that entire experience is consistent and entire experience is integrated, while you can do personalization on the content pages that also follows through on the search side, where when people are doing certain keyword searches on the search pages, that those personas can activate certain result sets that are being shown to them based on certain attributes of their characteristics or profile, right? So that's kind of at the high level, from the personalization perspective. SearchStax, site search, it's also internal, we call it from a product name perspective, Search Studio. is essentially a product that allows the marketing teams or the business teams to be able to manage and enhance their search experience. It's the product itself is, without going into kind of the sales pitch side of things, it really allows you to enhance the capability set that comes out of the box from from Sitecore, and then provides advanced capabilities that you're already aware of, things like fast navigation, things like auto suggest, things like various ways to, sorting and spell checking and all that kind of stuff. But the focus of the product is really providing tools in the hands of the content team or the marketing team to be able to manage that once the software is integrated. And this particular session is primarily focused on taking that one level ahead and then trying to see how personalization can be reeled into that same concept.
Yeah, so just to give you an example, let's assume that you have this web page. Okay, this website is related to a game, so you're basically dealing with games, and you have content for, I don't know, PlayStation, and you have content for Xbox. You can easily identify someone navigating in your website as a PlayStation guy based on the clicks, on the page views, or an Xbox guy. And based on that, you can then decide to change, the landing page banner. So if you are a PlayStation guy, you're going to be seeing something related to PlayStation. If you are an Xbox guy, you're going to be seeing something related to Xbox. The problem with that is that when it comes to the search at the moment, before this presentation, if you type something on the search, both audiences would be seeing the same kind of results. And not only that, but the order is going to be the same. So the goal of this product and integration with Sitecore and personalization is to solve that problem. So you have personalized banner, personalized messages, but you also have personalized search result. You can not only differentiate the result set, but also the order of the same result set with some boosting and some ranking expressions. So that's the goal of this whole history. So personalization, not only on content, but also on search experience. Do you want to share your screen, Sameer, to show us a little bit about the studio part?
Yeah, let me walk you through, I think, again, I think we want to keep the slides to the minimal. I think we'll actually love to show kind of the software side of the equation. So what we'll do is, I think if you can give me sharing rights, what I'd like to do is just for the folks out there who may not be aware of it, give a quick overview of the SearchStax, kind of product on the search side, and then see, and then kind of take it from there. It says, who can share, all participants or only host? I don't know why it's asking me.
I gave you access, so you should be able to share.
Yeah, sure. I think it was just an administrative kind of, yeah. Let me know if you guys can see my screen. All right. So, this is a dashboard that, once you integrate site search into your Sitecore application, this is the kind of dashboard that your marketing team or even you as developers will have access to, that focuses really around three things, right? One is around analytics. So as soon as you integrate the product, automatically your existing search is enhanced by getting kind of more of an understanding of what people are doing around search, everything that's related to search analytics, right? What kind of click-through rates are you getting? What kind of, if people are searching for something and they're ending up in an empty page, what those trends look like over the period of time, what kind of conversion people are getting from search, what kind of latency am I having from a search experience perspective, as well as some sort of a trending around average click position, which is kind of a rank for which is some sort of a KPI for measuring kind of your ranking or relevance, right? So you can go into details of what these users are doing as soon as you have the product integrated, but also allows you to have an understanding of very, very quickly say, you know what, this is how I want my search experience. I want faceting. I don't want faceting, whether I want sorting. So everything that goes into kind of enabling the capabilities of your search experience can be done by a, very easy to use point and click software. And you don't have to mess with, kind of the Solar or Azure search capabilities under the hood, and allow you to do it very, very easily with kind of low or no code solutions. I think when it becomes more interesting is, and in the concept of search, right? And for folks who've implemented search for customers, one of the common themes that continuously teams keep on iterating on is, the relevance of the search results that are being presented to the users, right? And that relevance, to make sure that the right results are shown to the right people at the right time, when especially the content is large, there's a lot of things that content teams worry about to make sure those results are ordered correctly, right? And again, personalization helps bridge that gap by taking that further step up, but the product also allows you to really quickly manage any sort of synonyms, any sort of spell checking and auto suggest that you need to activate directly from the dashboard. And then you have the concept of models where you can define as a developer or a content person, when anyone who comes to my search page performs a search, how do I want the search results to be influenced, right? And that influence can be managed by 4 factors today in the product. One is around when I come and search for, in Hugo's example, I search for a particular game, whether I should be searching on title, content, keywords, description, URL, or any other field that you may have, you have control over which search field does that particular search goes against. And then once you have that search, not all fields are equal, right? If I match an Xbox with a title Xbox, or let's say a game type or a console type, I may want to boost that particular field much higher than let's say a big description field that contains a lot of words, but that may not be relevant to what the user might have searched for. So those kind of things can be configured directly through the product. You can have complex rules depending upon if you want to override the default ranking models, and folks who are coming from Solar background and who've done implementations around Sitecore and Solar, you guys probably have been on projects where you have to mess with these ranking and boostings and things like that within Solar. Plus, if you want, once you've set those boostings and stuff, you don't even have kind of capabilities to be able to now overlay certain rules or anything that allow you to kind of change or manage the search experience for the users. And then finally, you can also create promotions where if for certain terms you think that certain result items should be moved to the top for all the users, or that can be managed directly from a dashboard. And very easy to use tools that are provided to the content and the marketing teams, so that once the technical integration is done, they can actually iterate on what experience their users are getting. Let's say tomorrow they are running an event, they have a special content item that they're trying to promote. Those can be directly managed through the dashboard without kind of having to go through an IT cycle again and again and again. And that helps them kind of really reduce the time to market to kind of make some of the changes they want in the search results. Now, the basic premise, right, is that we have all these kind of influences captured in a model, right? And this is kind of terminology from SearchStax side. What we call is a model that encapsulates these 4 different aspects of how the results are ranked. But then, then the question becomes, that's great. It's great when you don't have personalization, because every user that's coming to my site, I can apply this particular model and the search results can be tuned and shown, appropriately for that particular user. Now the question becomes, how do you go one step ahead where I have a persona A or a persona B coming and I want to show completely different search results? So we have a concept of models inside SearchStax, and then we have a concept where you can create multiple models inside SearchStax. And these models can have completely different, think about it as ranking profiles for a given model, one model compared to another model. And that's the means for either a Sitecore developer or a content person to be able to create these relevances or models that are very, very important for certain personas. And that's kind of the basis for how the personalization works inside inside SearchStax. Now, how that ties into Sitecore is the question, right? Because SearchStax is its own SaaS service. There needs to be some additional step that needs to be taken for Sitecore to be able to have an awareness that for a particular persona, I need to be able to trigger, let's say, I'm calling this a random model in this case versus a corp side model, right? These are the two models, let's say, in my system that we have. And that's, kind of what Hugo is going to show. We have a Sitecore module that gets dropped into Sitecore that allows you to ingest the data and make certain of these things possible. But I'll let kind of Hugo talk a little bit more into detail, as he's the expert on the Sitecore side.
Sure, so let me just share my screen again. Can you see it? Okay, perfect. So as Sameer was saying, everything on the site search looks very awesome and pretty excited. Now let's talk a little bit about how we can integrate everything that Sameer just showed us on Sitecore. The first step is you need to install a module, a Sitecore package. So SearchStax has developed a SearchStax for Sitecore package, very simple to be installed. It's going to take you probably 2 minutes. The package is available, so if you guys want to test it, I really encourage you to do that. Long history short, once you install the package, you're going to be able to configure what they call a search index. So it's almost like a native search index in Sitecore. So you use this little page right here to configure your search index from SearchStax in Sitecore. That's the step number one. You're going to have your core name. The cool part is that, as I said before, it is almost native. So it is part of Sitecore. It's not something, external. You can see my core is right here on my indexing manager. So you can use the indexing manager to rebuild your index. It's going to be watching your events on web database. So every single time that I publish something new to the web database, that's going to be part of my new index as well. So you don't need to worry about keeping your index updated or anything like that. It is exactly the same when compared to a Solr index in Sitecore. So that's the first phase. Once you have the package installed, configured, with some results, you can then, as you can see here, there are a few shortcuts on the control panel, on the dashboard, and there is also what is the coolest part, a new template. So SearchStax for Sitecore package comes with a template, a page template that you guys can use. If you're using that template to create your search page, number one, all the analytics events that Sameer showed us before are going to be integrated automatically. So you don't need to do anything in order to be able to track how people are using your search page. So that's one of my favorite parts, to be honest. Number two, you can then set the personalization thing that we've been talking about since the beginning of this presentation on the page item in Sitecore. So before jumping to that part, let me just talk a little bit about the personas that I have for this example. As I said before, I was trying to emulate, a gamer scenario. So I have a few personas in Sitecore, very simple. The first one is the Xbox. So this is the persona for those who are, I don't know how, but somehow related to Xbox. Probably they are, clicking on a lot of results related to Xbox, or even opening pages related to Xbox. I don't care. All I know is that once you are attached to that persona, I know that you are somehow related to Xbox. Same thing for PlayStation. And finally, I have the default one, which is, the basic one. So if I don't know if you are on Xbox or a PlayStation, you are a default one. On that case, I will not try to apply any sort of different search experience. I will just offer the basic one. And then once I have, their persona defined, I can then switch to another search model, the concept that Sameer just showed us before. That's the first part. Assuming that you are on a project who is already applying personalization for content, that part's going to be done. So you don't have to do that again. The personas on your website are going to be defined by probably the architect and the market together. So once you have the personas in place, all you got to do is you need to create a new search page. So I have this new one, which is using the template that I just mentioned before. And there is this field, the single field that you're going to have to configure, which is the search model definition. Coolest part about it, as you can see here, we have a few new rules in Sitecore in order to define what is the logic that are going to be applied between personas and search models. Okay, the first one.
Sorry to interrupt you. Could you increase the font a little bit, or make your browser a little bit smaller?
Is it better?
Much better than before. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks, Sameer. So a few rules, 2 conditions, 1 actions. one action, very simple. Basically, long story short, you can use those conditions to inform Sitecore that when you have this persona or this profile key scenario, on my example, when I have Xbox, which is a profile key that I just showed before, as you can see here. So the Xbox profile key, when the value of that profile key is greater than 1, I'm going to use the search model called Xbox. And if I show my Search Studio or site search configuration right here, you guys are going to see that I have a model called Xbox. If I click on it and I check the rules, I have a rule in place, which is basically boosting, as you can see here, boosting based on a field value. So what that means is that every single time that my result title field is Xbox S or Xbox X, I'm going to boost. And as you can see here, I can even boost differently. So the X is a little bit more important than the X. So ideally, I want people to see this first, and then this, and then the rest of the results. So that's the idea. And the idea is going to be pretty much the same for PlayStation. So I have another model on site search with a different rule on it, which is still doing pretty much the same thing. So PlayStation 4 on a result title field or PlayStation 5, those are going to be boosted different again. So 5 first, 4 second, and then the rest of the results. So that's a very simple scenario, but just keep that in mind. You can extrapolate that concept to whatever you want. So if you want to boost some fields, or if you want to, replace search terms, or even filter on field value, or even use a function to do something more, a little bit fancier, you can do that on different models, and then you can use Sitecore to switch over different models based on personas. So that's the entire history. If we go back to Sitecore a little bit, right here, you're going to see that I have a few conditions, and keep in mind that the order here is really important because Sitecore is going to be evaluating them based on the order. So if my Xbox profile key is 1 or greater, the Xbox is going to be my model. Otherwise, I have the PlayStation key greater than 1, PlayStation model. And finally, if the default one is greater than 1, I'm going to use default one. I have a default model, by the way, on site search, but I don't have any rule on it. So it's very simple, very basic. Just show me the results based on the basic relevance. With that in place, all I gotta do is that I can open just to make our life easier. You can also, of course, you can set up a few pages with some profile key associated to it. You guys who are Sitecore developer, you are pretty used to that concept. Just to make our life easier, I'm gonna be using what they call the Explorer mode, which is a little bit simpler, to test personalization in Sitecore, not related to site search. And I'm going to be using that to test this personalization on site search as well. So for those who don't know that yet, you can just open the experience editor. There's going to be a button called Explorer. And by using that interface, you can force some profile key values. And then you can, if everything in place is working, you can then see the calls, using different modules, going to SearchStax, and coming with the results. So the Explorer mode is right here. I'm gonna click on it, wait a little bit from Sitecore, kind of use it to it. And that's the Explorer mode. So basically I have my search page in place. And what I'm gonna do is that I'm use the on-site behavior to emulate some profile key scenarios. So assuming that I'm a default user and I have 1 or greater than that points on my default profile key. And again, that's gonna be defined by the marketers. So let's assume that we have that in place. If I have this scenario and I do a search, I perform a search, I should see results coming from SearchStax. That's cool. That's the first step. but they're not, on any specific order. They're just based on, basic relevance. The magic really happens when I change that scenario to a PlayStation guy. So now I know somehow that Sitecore is informing my search page that this current user is somehow related to PlayStation. And based on that, we're going to be applying the rules that I just showed before to change the model. And if we change the model, we're going to be seeing that PlayStation results related are going to be at the top. So that's what we expect when you do that. For those who are a little bit more, on tech, you can see that there is a new parameter here being sent to SearchStax. So that's how everything is connected. There's a new parameter here. SearchStax is interpreting that to change the model. And when it comes to the search page, as you can see here, my PlayStation results are now at the top. So that's the entire idea behind the scenes. And if we change to the search profile to Xbox, same thing. Don't forget that the X should be first and S later. Same thing with PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4. So even the weight of each ranking is being applied correctly. And again, this is a concept. You can extrapolate that whatever you want. If you want to get fancy with that, feel free to do so. But the whole history here is that based on profiles, personas in Sitecore, we can now offer not only different content to different audiences, but also different search experiences. You can have different result set or even the same result set, because if you go down a little bit here, you're going to see the PlayStation 4 is still there. I'm not excluding that. I'm just changing the order based on what I know from my business perspective. That's pretty much what I want to show. Sameer, you want to take the mic to do some sort of comments on that?
Yeah, no, I think you've shown how someone can play within Sitecore. I think if folks are interested, when you are doing your model development inside inside site search, what you can also do is there is a concept of relevance preview where you can actually go to the preview and do some searches and select, which model do you want that search to go against, right? So it becomes a poor man's way of quickly testing whether some of the stuff that you've, modeled for a particular persona, how would that result look like, right? So those kind of things are directly available, in the product as well. If you don't have, it sounds like Sitecore has an experience emulator where you can do that as well. But if for folks who may not have that, there's a very easy and quick way to do that in the product as well. Yeah, no, you've covered kind of most of that, right? I think that the possibilities, of course, are endless, right? You mentioned that depending upon the rules, you can kind of have one model versus the other model, and then you can see how users are interacting with those.
Yes. Anyone has any question, comments? We'll be more than happy to answer those.
I just have a quick question. So what happens with that indexing strategy when we define for like sync master or the interval async strategy, or like how does it work with different strategies? That's a good question, Madhu. First thing that it's important to note is that at the moment, SearchStax for Sitecore is working with the web only. So we are not indexing the master, we're indexing web. And of course, based on that, you can imagine that we're using the on-publish end strategy. So every single time that something is published to web, there is an event being triggered, and that's going to be triggering indexing operation on the SearchStax index, just like the Solar index on Sitecore is doing. Got it. So it's all like every time any item is going to be publishing, it's going to sync with SearchStax, and then it's going to be in the index. Exactly, almost instantaneous.
I have one more question. You demoed kind of the search, UI that's out of the box accelerated from Sitecore, right? If I'm a Sitecore In my Sitecore project, if I have a custom search page that I've implemented that's not utilizing SearchStax, SearchStax Accelerator, what are the limitations and what kind of capabilities would I not be able to achieve, right?
Sure. So the first thing, which is really important, is that the syntax of the search is going to be the same. It is still Solr, right? So the syntax is going to be exactly the same. But as I mentioned before, if you're using the one that we provided on the package, you already have all the analytics events being raised correctly. So that's the biggest pain point that I would say. So if you have some sort of custom implementation, which is totally feasible and possible, to be honest, you must have, you're going to be the one responsible for attaching all the analytics events correctly in order to be able to use the dashboards later. Otherwise, you're going to still have the results, but you won't be able to see how people are using your website, especially the search page.
I have a question around more related to the SearchStax here. If we are using it with SXA or JSS or the headless mode of things, like how much is it an extra effort to get things out? Like I see there are a lot of out of the box components, but can you fill in like how do you expect that to go with the headless system?
Yeah, sure. So the first part is that they also provide an SXA package. So it's pretty much the same concept that I just showed before. The only little difference is that instead of creating a search page using the template that I showed, you're going to be using a provided rendering. So based on SXA. So you're going to have your website just like you already have right now with one more rendering. And that's it. All the rest is going to be exactly the same. GSS and headless, I believe there is still some work in progress on that, right, Sameer?
Yeah, so SearchStax is an API-driven kind of the product, right? The Search Studio is completely API-driven. Today, in the product, if let's say you were to go headless, build a headless solution, the search APIs that the accelerator is using, you can implement exactly the same thing using any other, front-end technology that you might be using, right? Let's say certain folks are using React, or certain folks might say, you know what, we don't want to use any of the libraries. We're going to completely go native JavaScript or jQueries or something. You can actually implement the search experience completely utilizing SearchStax REST APIs. So that's not a limitation. The other aspect, and I think, when we talk about Content Hub, in Sitecore's scenario, is that, there are publish events inside Sitecore that allow you to push certain documents inside an API. So again, we also have an indexing API, a raw API. The only extra bit that you will have to implement is, since at least my knowledge of the content hub is, you kind of create a publish event, and you have to yourself create a publish event that takes the data that is being pushed from the content hub into that particular intermediate layer, and then convert that and push it into SearchStax. Hugo and I actually have been working on a prototype that shows that end to end. So probably a great topic for us to kind of demonstrate how that works end to end as at a separate kind of session. But that would be the additional work that you will have to perform, where the content hub will publish the documents or JSON into a particular piece of code that you may have to write, and then you have to transform that to just push that JSON into a SearchStax API that requests documents in a particular format. So that would be the additional overhead today. From SearchStax side, there is on the roadmap an API endpoint that we're writing that simplifies even the developers to not have to write that transformation as well. So they can pretty much take SearchStax URL, put that into Content Hub, and then Content Hub can directly push that data into SearchStax without having you to write an intermediate layer. So that's part of the SearchStax roadmap that we're going to launch.
I have a follow-up question with that. So the first question is related to the API that you mentioned. Do you have any SDK that makes the developers' life easier so they don't have to deal with the raw API?
Yeah, so no, we don't. We today, the APIs we only have the Vue.js app. today. We don't have any client APIs today as part of the SearchStax offering.
Okay. The second question I had is related to the publishing event that you were talking about. Whenever item is published to a web database, that gets pushed to the SearchStax index. How do we handle if I unpublish a page or like removing a page from the site, like that gets taken care of automatically, or how do you handle that?
Yeah, so
yeah, Hugo, you want to take that question?
yeah, I can take that one. I mean, it's using exactly the same strategy as your, proper web target. So long history short, when you unpublish, there is another event which is going to be raised, which is a delete on the web. And again, SearchStax is basically responding to those events. So if there is a delete event coming from Sitecore, they're going to have to remove this item from the published index. So it's going to be pretty much the same as you were using some sort of solver for web as well.
Okay. Yeah, so basically, it's just a type of event that's going in, right? There is a kind of a, in raw HTTP terms, there's like a post event and a delete event and a get.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was about to ask.
Right.
Maybe another question I have related to what that kind of forgot. Okay, let me bring that back on. Give me a couple of minutes. Anybody else have any questions? Go for it.
Yeah, this is Venu. I have a couple of questions on SearchStax. So first question is around how seamless to extend the modules that are provided by SearchStax to, especially to, how seamless is it to do the script work? How heavily marketing team asks the IT team to design the search pages with the relevance and all that, right? So how seamless is it to do the script work and styling, right? Based on the modules that you guys provide. And the second question is, does it have any machine learning features embedded into the tool itself? Like in the past, I've worked with the Covio. It has machine learning features, and obviously that's an eye-catchy feature for all the marketing team, right?
Yeah, great question. So, Hugo, do you want to take the styling question first?
Yeah, I can take the first part.
Okay.
Yeah, I can take the first part. So, I mean, from a dev perspective, from one dev to another, this page that I just showed is a view. So it's a HTML with some HTML on it and some sort of JavaScript. The script part is going to be super simple. It's just, starting some sort of connector with SearchStax. If you want to change that, you can easily go to that file and change that if needed. If you want to extend that, it's going to depend on how you want to extend that. So it is not 100% flexible that you can do whatever you want. Again, it is following the Solr format. So you still want to make sure that you are passing those documents on the proper format. But from a styling perspective, it's exactly the same as any other module. So you can actually override those stylings. You can actually change the HTML if you want. It's a HTML file, so you can do those changes on it. If you want to do something which is going to be super different from what I just shown before, it's going to be way more complicated. If you want to just change the look and feel, it's going to be super simple. It's going to be a matter of applying the right CSS on it, and that's it.
Yeah, and let me show you a little bit, kind of with an example. I think that might help. So this is, an example. If you guys can see my screen, this is an example of SearchStax. This is an example of a client that's using SearchStax, product, where what you're seeing is the styling, right, is a little bit different, right? Even the structure might be the same, right? Where you have the facets on the left, you have the results on the right, but the page is much more styled towards kind of the customers or the clients kind of look and feel, right? So this is one example. We also have multiple other examples, and one of the things that we're actually releasing this quarter is a concept of theme editor, where if you look at what you have is we're actually announcing kind of a new concept of theme editor, where if you're a front-end developer, you don't have to worry about any of the Vue.js or anything like that. You can actually utilize SearchStax to be able to edit some of the styling aspects to match kind of what you need. And this can, there's a concept of global themes that will be provided within SearchStax. You can start from one of those themes and then change the look and feel of how you'd like the search application to be. Or what you can do is you can completely customize the entire theme and have a very easy way to say, this is how I want the settings to be. Or if I want to edit kind of the search page and want to change how it looks like, you really have a kind of an in-app editor to be able to change some of the styles and stuff that right? So as long as you have a good understanding of HTML and CSS, and mostly CSS, you would be able to style, kind of the search page relatively easily using kind of the, the theme builder. Of course, this theme builder, once it's applied, you have kind of a hosted search page. You can just copy the small script, paste it into your Sitecore application, and then you have your full-blown kind of a search experience that's matched to your site. So yeah, I mean, if you need some more examples, we have some examples on our documentation page. If you want to try it out, we've actually launched a free trial version of Site Search as well. So you can go to our website and actually start a 14-day trial and get your get your hands dirty if you'd like. And there's some developer documentation around how the integrations work. What can you do with the accelerators? How to change the look and feel and such.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Yeah, and I think going back to your second question around machine learning. So, today I think our focus on the product is primarily around making, really simplifying and making it easy for both, the Sitecore developers as well as the Sitecore marketing teams who are managing this experiences, fairly easy to get an enhanced experience into their hands as quickly as possible. The current machine learning capabilities we have are primarily around autosuggest, where the system actually learns from what in the past history users have searched for, and then the autosuggest capability that's already in the system, the API, enhances over the period of time based on as it learns on how the users are interacting with it. That's kind of the extent of machine learning that we have today in the offering. Where there's a lot of work ongoing internally, where we're trying to also, because we have the analytics data captured, taking some of that data and seeing how that can be utilized to enhance the search results as well. But for most of the time, a lot of the customers that we work with, they're trying to make sure, I think the problem that they're trying to solve is we don't even have an advanced search. We need to kind of get there first, make sure that our content teams or the marketing teams have the ability or the tools to be able to make these changes, and then they kind of want to move and take the next step or the next ladder, right? So that's kind of where, at least on the product side, we are.
Thanks for that.
I think I got my question back on. And I'm just comparing it with Coveo. So in Coveo, there is an option where you can crawl it as an HTML content, but just rendered on the page, or you could do a Sitecore item. What is the approach that's being used in SearchStax?
SearchStax has a crawler availability. Of course, if you're using a Sitecore module, then you're tightly integrated. You can extract that data out of the module. But let's say you are you're on a Sitecore 8.x project, and you don't our current Sitecore modules are only supported for 9.x and 10.x. So we don't have the Sitecore module support for 8.x. So two scenarios, right? Or two use cases. One is where you are on a version that does not support the module, and you need to be able to index the content into and enhance the search experience. We have a crawler that allows you to take a domain or subdomain or part of a page and crawl. It can automatically crawl the entire tree, and then that crawled content automatically goes into SearchStax, and then that can be used by by the APIs from a search experience perspective. And that crawler supports documents. So if you have PDFs, if you have Excel, if you have other type of documents that are there, that crawler is smart enough to extract the data out of those documents as well and push it into SearchStax. So that's one use case that we've seen with SearchStax. The other use case that we've heard is I have a Sitecore website, but I also have a need for having a federated or a universal search where I want to index data from another website that may or may not be Sitecore, right? It could be that it's a completely different microsite. So in that case, what you could do is, what we've seen is you can index data from the module and augment that data with a crawler that's crawling the other website. And then that data can be mashed in with the same index, so to speak, right? And that index can then power the search results.
Okay, I have a follow-up question. So when you say, for example, I consider that there is a static website out there like WordPress or something. If we are crawling that content, does it go into the same index here, or will it be considered as a separate index? And while you're,
it's up to you, right? It's
okay, so
your choice. It's your choice to say, because again, that drives, like that decision is really driven by the use case, right? If you want to be able to combine the search results from both your Sitecore and the non-Sitecore site, then you have to index the data into a single app, so to speak, what SearchStax calls an app or index. Okay. And then if you want to keep them completely separate, then you create a separate app where that data goes, and you can have those two apps that are completely running differently.
And where does the crawler live?
The crawler lives in SearchStax hosted environment.
You mean the cloud itself?
Yes, it lives in the cloud.
Part of the cloud, okay.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, you don't, like, as a developer or an operations team, you don't have to manage the crawler on, and you don't need any additional infrastructure for that.
Okay, good to know. Any other questions from anyone? Seems like I'm asking too many questions, but I'm just comparing it close to Coveo because we are kind of using similar situations with that. So I thought I could clarify.
Hey, sorry, I have a question. This is Abhi. I have a question on the similar lines compared with Coveo. So you mentioned SearchStax indexes, when an item is published to the web. So how do we handle in a case where we have both CM and CD environments, where CM is pointing to the master and CD points to the web? So how do we handle the search on the CM, like master index? Can we build like a master index with SearchStax, or that makes sense?
Yeah. So I mean, at the moment, we can have multiple indexes using web only. That's how the system was developed. You can use master. You can still, kind of make the authors use your search page on master, but when you open the search page, it is going to be using the web index only. So everything related to content on the search page is going to be coming from master, but the page itself is going to be pointing to the web. The web index is going to be defined in the configuration.
Okay, the reason I'm asking is because usually the testing is usually done on the CM first, right? And we make sure all the testing is good, and then we start publishing to the web and we test it on web. So I was wondering like how we could test for the search functionality on the CM environments, if that is pointing to the web. That's kind of confusing.
Yeah, I see your point, and you can still test the search feature itself on as I was saying, on master. The only thing that you're going to be seeing the results which are still related to web. So yeah, it is probably one of the limitations of the package. But again, you can still test the search page on master, but seeing the results coming from web.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry, I have another follow-up question. So I heard we have HTML crawling and text crawling into the Sitecore pages and modules and blah, blah, blah. So my question is around the commerce world. How do we, is there any configuration that can crawl the product information management system so that we can do the search around that commerce world?
No, we don't have any specific. We don't have any specific crawling on that front. Like our crawler is very, kind of web crawler, right? So it crawls the HTML, right? That's public information. So if you have, if you have a page that is a product page and you want to index that, the out-of-the-box crawler will index, some of the key attributes, right? Like the content, the title, the descriptions and stuff. Now you can extend the crawler, right? I mean, SearchStax can actually extend the crawler to create a very specific product extraction. If we want to extract certain metadata out of a product page, like, maybe there's product attributes or there is product price and stuff. So the crawler can be extended, but that's, going into more kind of specific customizations and not kind of the out of the box capability. That's the way you would achieve that.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, also we can hear you.
Great. So I have a question. I'm not really sure if the venue is kind of a little bit off. So obviously listening to this sounds very interesting. So the first thing I started doing is going to the site and kind of looking at pricing and everything. So my question is from a pricing point, like, this is broken down pretty straightforward. Does each one of these pricing points include the crawler and everything as part of this, or is that like broken out from a pricing standpoint?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think typically we try to give all the features that are available in the pricing, at least on the Search Studio side that's available. But I think that's really a question for probably my sales team can probably provide more clarity on that.
Okay. Yep.
So that's I think that's probably the right forum for.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. I appreciate you trying to answer it anyway. Thank you.